Good morning and welcome to episode number 74 of Business Unusual, Prospecting Through Uncertainty. I am your hostess with the mostest this morning, Brendan Filbert, managing partner with SalesWorks. And my job all day, every day is to help you get in front of your next opportunity, whether that be identifying a new engagement, finding a new client, or perhaps pursuing your next career move. Now, today's topic is one that maybe you're thinking, are trade shows really relevant right now? And I will tell you that there are a lot of folks that are still experiencing some amazing benefits with trade shows. And the folks that were participating in the conversation before we kicked off this recording, they're finding that there's still some value in this method of prospecting. And we're going to talk today about some key strategies that you can implement with your trade shows that will help you with making the most of this opportunity. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to dive into the content because we have a lot of ground we're going to be covering today. But the first thing that I want to start with is just a really quick story about trade show success. So I am working with a client that's in manufacturing, and some of these elements of this story may resonate with you. And they have been actively attending the same trade show for about 25 years. And every year they go, they take their stack of catalogs, they take their giveaways, they've got their fishbowl to collect business cards in. They are, they've got the routine down. Well, what happened this year was kind of interesting because they had a prospect out of the blue contact them that they had met at this same trade show 4 years previously. And this prospect asked them, they said, hey, I know you're probably going to be coming to this trade show that's coming up, and we'd like to make sure that you bring a couple of samples of this particular type of product because we're looking at implementing that, and we've been having problems with our current vendor, and we just remembered that we had picked up a catalog from your booth. And fast forward 60 days, they've got a new client, and it's a new significant client. 6 figures of revenue just rained out of the sky like showers that you may have experienced last night. All right, now, it's always fun when that happens, when you have these lovely blessings that seem to fall from the sky. But you think about, they've attended this trade show for 26 years and they landed a 6-figure client. Well, then we started digging into how often had they reached out and connected with that prospect after the trade show. And the answer to that was never. And now this company is not alone. Most of the time, what happens with trade shows is you go, you spend the money on a booth, you spend the money on getting your booth ready, you may do graphics, tabletop display, video. You're going to spend all kinds of money on production in order to have a wow experience when people stop by your booth. Maybe you're giving away the latest and greatest Apple innovation that there's a drawing for so you can collect business cards. You collect all these business cards in your fishbowl, and then you go back and do what with them? 95% of the time, you probably do nothing, unless you happen to have a conversation with someone that stopped that was meaningful or memorable to you. And you're like, woohoo, it's a hot prospect. I've got to make sure I follow up on that one. And that is what you follow up on. Even though you potentially had the opportunity to engage with a lot more, maybe even hundreds of people passing by your booth. Because with some of these trade shows and conferences, there is extensive traffic. And here's the thing, unlike most traditional networking where you attend a large gathering with a lot of people that have diverse interests, when you attend a trade show, everybody is there interested in one topic and one thing, and it's probably in the industry expertise or the industry area that you're focusing in right now. So, my friend, Trade shows are an amazing opportunity, and I want you to make sure that you are taking advantage of everything you can do to take the contacts that you make at those trade shows, turn them into ongoing, long-lasting, significant client and referral relationships. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. Now, with that being said, I am talking not at all about your booth. I'm not talking about your graphic design. I'm not talking about anything related to the actual event as far as working it. Because I promise you, you can Google work a trade show booth and you'll get a lot of great insight that tells you how to create a retail experience where people want to have a conversation with you at the event. What very few people talk about, though, is the preparation up to the event and the follow-up after the event, as well as some key things that you can do in order to make sure that that interaction is meaningful. And that is what we're going to be talking about today. All right, let's get started. This is going to be fun. I'm excited and so glad that you're here. Now, knowing that there's no fish bowls in sight for our conversation today, I want to share with you who specifically I was thinking about when I put this presentation together. And it's one that's been in the works for a couple of weeks now. And I have recognized that there are, again, significant gaps in how people approach trade shows and how they follow up and follow through. So I am specifically talking today to those solopreneurs and those small business professionals that are out there, or the independent sales rep that may feel like you're on a little bit of an island and you don't have a lot of structure or support or opportunity to brainstorm or hear about best practices within your current sales environment. I'm also talking to people that may have a very specific niche that you are trying to get to. Whether you are a medical manufacturer and you're talking about how do you work trade shows for conferences, or maybe you are distributing pipes, valves, and fittings, and you're attending a conference on oil fields, oil and gas. These concepts that I'm talking about today will apply to you. They can also apply if you are working at, let's call it a job fair or conferences, any place that you might have a booth or display at the back of the room. Now, the first thing that you have to think about is, why are you there? And whenever you put together your strategy around an initiative like trade shows or social selling or networking or belonging to an association, it doesn't matter. You have to have the strategy behind it. Otherwise, what you find is you're out there throwing a lot of tactics against the wall, hoping that something will stick. And that is not a path for success when it relates to trade shows. You do want to be very clear about what you are there to accomplish. Now, trade shows, much like, whenever you attend any type of conference or you participate in social groups on LinkedIn or Facebook, they have a tendency to attract that niche audience. And while you're there, you have the opportunity to gain so many benefits. Whether you are just another attendee walking through the different booths and picking up all of the free promotional products that are there, or whether you are one of the speakers that is presenting, there are a host of opportunities that I want you to be aware of and actively partaking of when you attend a trade show. Now, first thing is, there is so much insight to be had through the trade show, because talk about a highly concentrated environment that is, it's market research central. You have business leaders, you have the sales professionals, you have vendors, you have any external professional, you have bankers, you have everybody under the sun that is serving that particular industry niche that are all there under one roof, and you have access to them probably for a few days. So with that, I want you to really be thinking about all of the aspects that you can take advantage of, because there may be some things that you take away from the trade show that can be game changing. You can identify strategic partnerships, new products, new services, different ways of serving your industry. There's so many opportunities to take advantage of when you're at a trade show. Not to mention, of course, reaching new prospects, finding influencers, getting face to face again with some of your current clients that maybe you haven't seen for quite some time because of the pandemic. Maybe there are past clients there that you haven't connected with for a very long time. There are so many of the opportunities listed that I encourage you to really think about, what are you particularly going to benefit from with every event that you attend. And the more you can be proactively thinking about these different things, the way that your mind works is it will identify those situations as they are happening. They will bring them to your awareness, and you will take better advantage of that moment and be in the moment rather than miss some of the gems that are falling at your feet. And then, of course, one of my all-time favorites is identifying those referral relationships. And right now, with all the challenges that businesses are having with finding staff and people, resellers and joint venture partnerships can be so powerful for your business because they allow you to scale without adding staff. And these are all opportunities that are presented at trade shows. So what I want you to do for me for just a second is take just a minute and chat in with which of these opportunities do you most seek out when you attend a trade show? What are you there for? What is that very specific purpose that you have in mind? And just take a second, chat in. If you're listening to the recording, what I want you to do is I want you to leave a comment in the very bottom, the comments that are underneath this recording, and just share with me what your greatest objective is when you attend a trade show, because I want to hear from you. All right, so take a second, chat that in. And now while you're doing that, I'm going to talk to you about making the most of it. And if that's your objective, I want to help you accomplish it through your plan. Because when you look at all of the different things that you can accomplish, then it kind of becomes a little bit overwhelming. And you're thinking, all right, what am I going to do first? And then how do I make sure that I don't miss out on all of the other nuggets that are there? Because it can sometimes be a little bit overwhelming. Now, the first thing that I'm going to help you recognize is that not just the attendees are your focus. Remember, when you attend a trade show, everybody is there in your niche or that has that same area of interest. They are all folks that are thinking about that same common purpose. They're there for growth, innovation, solutions to problems that they're experiencing. There are a host of reasons why they're going to attend that event. So with that, you can approach this in a couple of different ways. You can approach it where you are talking specifically to the attendees. So let's say you have a booth. Well, then probably you're thinking that your focus needs to be on the attendees and getting people to stop by your booth and make sure that you pull them in from the aisleways and get them over there. Now, when you just have that sole focus, you miss out on all of the other potential opportunities that are there that may be even bigger. Recognize that when you are presenting or exhibiting at a trade show, sometimes that may tether you and you may not be able to get out and work the room as much as if you just attended and were just one of the other attendees that was there. So what I want you to recognize is that not only are you after the people in the aisles, you also want to connect with the other exhibitors that are there. Find the speakers, because these are thought leaders, these are influencers in your industry. They are potential referral partners. They could be joint venture, they could be resellers for you. There's so many different things you can do. So you want to make sure that you're paying attention to those relationships as well, and being proactive on adding them into your relationship base. Also, the sponsors of the event. And that's an area that I think a lot of us can sometimes overlook, the people that are there that are wanting access to that industry as well, because those folks probably also have another audience of people that they are looking to build value with. And maybe they can build value through you and through your insight or your solution. So these are four primary areas that I want you to think about when you approach your next trade show. So with that, what I'd like to know is which of these four represent the greatest opportunity for you? Because remember, when you get a prospect, you have one relationship. If you have a referral relationship, you have access to multiple opportunities that are coming your way. And you may find that through exhibitors. When you get to the speakers and the sponsors, now you have access to thought leaders and influencers with a capital I that may be able to put you in front of hundreds, if not thousands of people. So share with me which one represents the best opportunity for you when you approach your next trade show. And maybe which of these four are an area that you haven't really thought of before, but it's something that you want to dive into and pursue. Because there's a lot of opportunity here. All right. So now let's talk about actually working the event. So if we've talked about what the potential is, now what we need to do is we need to think about how do we actually put this strategy to work. So when you recognize that when you attend the event, you have the area that you're going to focus on, this is what your role can be when you attend a trade show. You can either be one more person in the aisles, you may want to get a booth and be an exhibitor, perhaps you want to sponsor the event and gain access to it. Maybe there is a topic that you can present and really add value to the overall experience of the event. Or maybe, if you think about it, should you be sponsoring or organizing a trade show or conference or an event also? Because there are some of these things, particularly with how the world is going with virtual events, there are some of these that you can actually create virtual experiences that are often in the reach of a lot of people that maybe before wouldn't be able to pull something like that off. So that's something else that I don't want you to just assume that it doesn't make sense. So let me give you a really quick example. I had a group of my clients that I think it was in April, maybe April, May, something like that. They put on a workshop series and they called it the 147th day of March. And it was because in March of 2020, it seemed like the year drug on and on and on. And they did a virtual conference where basically what they did is over a period of 4 weeks, they shared topics. They had virtual networking through town hall meetings. They had the opportunity to engage with a lot of businesses that were struggling with how to access resources to just sustain themselves during the early days of the pandemic. In some of their events, they had 100 people attending their virtual town hall meetings. They each gained access. There were 5 people that participated in this. They each gained access to a very robust list of business owners that were quite proactive about seeking out resources and very open to engaging with someone that could bring them those resources. That presented an opportunity to engage where they would have never found it before. But they had to organize and they had to create a valuable engagement opportunity and then communicate it to their community of relationships. So with that, that's kind of what I want you thinking about as I'm talking through this, because there are a lot of different ways that you can leverage trade shows, and maybe there is a non-traditional format that makes sense for you to offer or participate in. So then if you're thinking about all of the different ways that you can access trade shows, what are some of the things that you need to consider to figure out which direction would be right for you? So first of all, you have to look at your experience in that niche or in that industry. So for example, are you new to that industry? Are you there more as you're in learning mode and you're a sponge? Or is it something that you are very familiar with? You are well known. You've been around the block. You have seen a lot. You know, kind of like, what is it, that Allstate commercial, I think it is, that talks about, you know, we've seen a thing or two, so we know how to navigate it. Is that your experience? Because that determines how you will approach the event. Because if you've got a lot of experience, perhaps you have a lot of contacts that are at the event, you've got a lot of access already, then you're going to approach it a little bit differently than if you are just transitioning into a job in that industry or market. Also, you need to think about, do you have thought leadership or content? So whenever I approach an event like this, I have the opportunity to present and share insight, and I have presented at probably more of these events than I can even count or remember. It's funny, I did a Google search of my name once, and I had a whole lot of different results that popped up, and there were so many of them that were presenting at this trade show or that conference or this event, and now even more based on what we're doing with social and YouTube. So there are so many opportunities when you present, but I had to position what I could do for the attendee, and you have to sell yourself in order to take advantage of those opportunities. They don't just fall in your door. These organizers are looking for speakers and people that can share valuable insight to their guests, because that helps them sell tickets, and that helps them sell exhibitor space, and that helps them create even more value for their sponsors. So with that, it wasn't it fell in the door for me. It was I had to make it happen. And oftentimes when you are presenting, they also provide you with opportunities to engage with the audience. You get access to attendees list for your breakout, which that's a pretty powerful list to have, because these are people that sign up and say, hey, this is a topic that is really of interest to me. So there are a lot of things that you can do, but again, you need to be proactive about making it happen. You also need to think about your relationship base. Whenever I've attended an event and I've been an exhibitor, I always like to make sure that I bring my referral relationships with me. And then instead of being tied to a booth, oftentimes we'll take turns manning the booth, and I'm all for paying for it for 100% of it. And then I'll go work the room for 4 to 6 hours of the event and have a referral partner that rotates through so that they can visit with the people that are stopping by, and we all cover the event for everyone else. And the thing is when you approach an event like that, it's really a lot of fun, because if you meet with one person in the aisles at an event, then as far as you're concerned, if you're just representing your business, it's like you have a Phillips head screwdriver, and if they don't have a screw that needs put in to attach two things together that has that Phillips head on the top of it, you are out of luck. They're not a legitimate prospect for you. But if you approach them instead with a complete tool belt, that you have so many different solutions through both what you offer and through what your referral relationships offer, it's a lot more fun to be able to sift and sort and say, so tell me why you're attending this event. And then when someone shares what they're looking for specifically, that's not something I do, but I've got someone that I'd love to connect you with. Let me shoot them a quick text and see if they're here. And then you shoot over the message and you take the prospect that you just found for your referral partner over and make the introduction. And then, oh, by the way, did I mention that while you're hustling for your partners, now instead of it just being you working the event for you, now you have maybe 3, 4, 5, 10 others that are working the event on your behalf as well. It's funny, I have one of my clients that calls this approach gang networking, and not as a bad thing. It's kind of like the old days of what show was that? Little Rascals. Does anybody here remember Little Rascals? Chime in. Okay, date yourself. Come on, send me a really quick chat or chime in on the comments if you remember Little Rascals and you remember, that gang of little boys that were out there changing the world, changing their town. Anyway, so it was gang in all the right ways and none of the wrong ones. And they'd team up before the event. They'd get their list together. They'd identify who it was that they wanted to meet from the exhibitors. And then they would all go and work the event. Yes, it was probably before the time of many folks who are listening to this. But check it out on Nickelodeon. It's kind of a cute little wholesome show. All right, so with that, that's an approach that you can take when you gather your relationships. The other piece that was really fun that I started down the path with when I said you have other people banging your drum and talking about how amazing you are, that contributes to your social proof. You also want to make sure that if you have clients that are at the event, that you have them open doors for you and of course talk about how amazing you are to these prospects, because that can be pretty powerful as well. And then of course, if you have a lot of connections to the organizers so that they can speak highly of you and your work, that can also be very helpful for you in terms of how you're going to serve best in that environment. So with that being said, what I'd love for you to do is just share real quickly with me in the comments, which approach do you often take when you approach these networking opportunities through trade shows? So out of the 6 that we've talked about before, which one has made the most sense for you in the past? I have allergies, so I have to make sure that I drink often. But it is iced tea. I'm not starting that early. Okay, so which one makes the most sense for you? Networking, fantastic. So leveraging your relationship base and your referral partners, fantastic. That's a very powerful approach to take when you approach trade shows. All right, now here are just a few of the things that I'm going to share with you as advice if you are an attendee. And remember, everything that I'm talking about is what you are going to do before the event, and then also what you are going to do after the event. Because remember, there are a host of recordings you can probably find on YouTube that talk to you about the grip and grin portion of the event. So I'm not even going to go down that path, but I am going to share with you a few of the insider tricks that I have learned. So I love to engage with the organizers of the event, and I am one of the very first that's going to raise my hand and volunteer and do everything I possibly can in order for them to promote the event. I'm going to share it on my social channels. I want to be one of their best partners or advocates as they're spreading the word about their event and making sure that they add value to the people that are in attendance. Now, with that puts you into a pretty powerful position, because when you are an advocate and a resource that is helping them, you create a lot of emotional equity. So there are a lot of these event organizers that are then quite happy to share information with you that may not be available to just everyone that is participating in the event. So what I love to do is I love to visit with them about who is going to be in attendance. I let them know I'm very transparent about why I want to help them make the event as successful as possible, and that I'm also needing their help in order to make sure that I accomplish my goals through that event. So we'll talk about who is in attendance, who are the relationships that they're looking to expand, who are their best supporters and advocates, who are the people that they recommend that I connect with, and what are their suggestions for me opening the door with them and building a relationship, which often leads to some pretty great referrals and introductions from the event organizers to the people that are in the room that I most want to meet. So I will often have conversations about the attendee list. Normally you've got access to the sponsor and exhibitor list. That's pretty easy to get a hold of. Of course, there are advertisers and, the event hosts and sponsors that you can normally gain access to that information as well. And so if there is a really big organization that is sponsoring, I'm not really after the big organization as a whole, but I do want introductions to the representatives that they send that are there to work the room. So you want to make sure that you are identifying the people that are going to be there that you most want to connect with to open the door. And then also, you want to leverage any social media mentions. The things that are pretty amazing about LinkedIn right now is using hashtags and capitalizing on hashtags, where particularly with conferences, you may find that there is a small trend that gets developed. It may only have a couple of hundred people, but those couple of hundred people may actually end up being your direct target. And I learned yesterday in my LinkedIn training session that Monty Clark offered that you can actually post in the thread where hashtags are mentioned, and you will end up attracting second and third degree connections. So do make sure that you research that functionality. And I'm happy to clue you in when Monty brings that workshop back around. It was an amazing experience and well worth the price of admission. So there are different things that you can do with social media to really take advantage of that, again, niche and focus, because many of these trade shows will actually have a hashtag up to, during, and after the event that gathers their followers on whatever social platform you're on. So do make sure that these are just a few of the things that you want to think about as it relates to your event. Now, what I want to do is I want to provide you with a very specific countdown that I use when I am working with a client to prepare for an event. And again, remember, I'm not really going to dive into what your actual booth is going to look like or any of your marketing collateral, because there's so many amazing resources out there that can really help you. But there are some things that you need to think about so that you approach those resources and you engage them in the right way to make sure that you turn those contacts into prospects that do fit the means, the money, and the motivation to work with you right now. So 4 weeks prior to a trade show, I am going to begin following the target contacts that I'm after. So remember, I'm volunteering, so I'm going to have access to some of the people that are there that maybe the average attendee isn't going to have access to. So this is how I'm going to leverage that. I'm going to begin following them on social media. I'm going to listen in on their conversations, stalk them in all the right ways and none of the wrong ones. And as you're listening to those conversations, you are also going to start hearing about what their challenges are that are related to your solution right now. I'm not really going to do a ton with it, except for perhaps engaging conversations and add value in the threads that they're participating in, because that's how you can begin to lay that foundation of trust, expertise, and authority around a topic. Because remember, it's 8 to 22 touches along the buyer journey. And this can be a way that you can have several of those initial interactions take place even before you connect with them at the trade show. So that when you do connect with them, there is just a little bit of familiarity with them or brand awareness. And that's how you do it. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to look specifically in my client base to identify if there are any attendees at that trade show that I want to make sure that I schedule time and get in front of. The other thing that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be creating an offer. Now, this offer is not about building, it's not going to be about making a brochure or something really fancy just for this. It's going to be a very special, limited time, limited access to something that I only do for this particular group of people. So, for example, if I were promoting, let's see, if I went to a job fair, I might offer something to the attendees that would be a limited time webinar that I did for a group that was specifically related to making the most of each interview. And I would make sure at that event that I promoted that, and it was only available for people that were there. So now remember, I'm not all about fish bowls, but I am about communicating the offer. So you're going to want to have a sign-up sheet so that you can capture their email address and then connect with them. So you'll think about doing things like that. And then I am a big fan of promotional or branded products that have your name on them that you give away. And I have so many clients that have leveraged this, and it is not overdone. You do want to be very selective and make sure that whatever you give them does have your contact information, your website, and it's something that they're going to use quite often and look at fondly. Okay, so this is 4 weeks prior to the event. Now, what I'd like for you to do is chat in to me and let me know which of these are you doing, which of these are new to you. So I want to find out where everybody's at right now. So these are a few of the things that you do 1 month prior to a trade show. Okay, so share with me in questions, or you can also leave it in the comments below. Now, let's talk 3 weeks prior. Remember, this is a countdown. So I've been following them for a week. I've been engaging in conversations on social. Now I'm going to send a connection request on LinkedIn to people that are my new prospects. I'm going to want to engage with them and begin opening the door on a relationship. I'm also going to be listening to the industry trends to know just where and how I can be relevant. Remember, you are not going to be talking about, so tell me about the top 3 challenges you're facing right now, because that right there is code for, I really don't have a lot of value to talk to you about. If instead I approach it and say, I'm wondering how you're navigating the chip shortage from China. Have you found domestic providers for that? Or are you still working on figuring out workarounds to make that happen? So if you approach it with a conversation entry that shows that you do get their problem, you do get their pain, you are aware of what big challenge is probably keeping them awake, you're going to spark a conversation that is at a completely different level. Now, they may say, we've got that handled. No worries. Fantastic. Okay. Well, then I'm probably going to go to my second or third pain statement that I'm hearing or have heard about through social conversations. And social not being cocktail party, but social through social media. Because remember, that's what another thing that you get from those hashtags is you get access to those industry trends. The other thing we want to make sure that you do is you identify your value proposition specifically to that audience navigating those challenges at that particular moment in time. You're going to need a hook statement. So think about it almost like that headline. You've got 3 seconds to capture someone's attention. So you are going to want to make sure that the headline to your 30-second commercial is going to capture their awareness. The other thing that you're going to do is whatever your offer is, you're going to spend time making sure that you package it so it's attractively presented. Whether it's a landing page on your website, that's actually what I'd recommend you do, is have a landing page that is just for the people that you meet at that conference so that you can engage them into your funnel and nurture them. 2 weeks prior, we're going to want to make sure that we schedule meetings to take place. So just a really quick example, I work with a company that it's actually a group of attorneys, and they get all of their business, all of it, by attending 2 trade shows, and that's it. But the trade shows are a week long, and they are attended by people from all over the world that have an interest in building socially sustainable businesses, as well as a for-profit entity. So these are not nonprofits, these are for-profit companies, and there are these big conferences that are specifically for these businesses, and talk to them about efficient ways to operate, as well as it gives them access to best practices and what features case studies and interviews a host of these other companies. So literally there are hundreds of presenters that are at this event, thousands and thousands of people attending. And this group of attorneys, there are 5 of them, they attend every single day, and it's expensive. It's like $3,000 or $4,000 per person to attend. So they are there, and I'm telling you, they pretty much don't sleep throughout the entire event, because what they do is they have so many of their clients that the only time they ever get to see them is at this event. Because remember, they're coming in from all over the world. And my clients don't like hopping on airplanes and flying. So most of the work that they do with them is remote, and it even was prior to COVID. So what they do is they make sure that there are no happy hour downtime breaks. There are no coffee hours that aren't filled in. If they don't have a particular session that they're attending with speakers that they most want to meet, they will actually schedule sidebar conversations with their clients and with prospects. The other thing that they do is they make sure that they have their client as their wingman during all of the social events. And they have so much social proof through connecting with these folks and having their client share, because remember, they're attorneys. They can't make comments about, I work with so-and-so, but their client can. So their client can basically walk around the room and say, this is how amazing this firm was and why you should hire them. And they introduce them to their colleagues and peers, and it just does an absolutely phenomenal job. So you are going to want to make sure that you are very proactive about scheduling your time. And don't just take it as I'm going to show up for the event and just meet with new people. You want to make sure that you take advantage of the opportunity to reconnect with all of your other relationships. You are also going to want to, of course, organize just those, the nuts and bolts that have to take place of getting your booth and your display organized and shipped, make sure that everything is ready. Now, the other thing that you are going to do is you are going to create what is called a nurture sequence that is specifically going to the new contacts to communicate and extend that offer that they are participating in. Because the second they enter your CRM, you want all of that to immediately kick in and the automations to happen. That is critically important. 1 week prior, you are going to confirm the appointments with the folks that you're connecting with, and make sure that you talk with them about some specific things that you want to share. So if there's something new about your service or product, if there is something in particular that is getting ready to happen in your business, or you've recognized something in theirs, you're going to want to make sure that you talk about it. And that's When I'm talking about the finalized details, I'm going to actually do a little bit of pre-conversation. This may also be when I reach out to those prospects that I know are going to be in attendance, that I've been connecting to on LinkedIn, and I'm going to let them know, hey, I'm going to be in attendance at this event, would love to schedule 10 minutes just to get acquainted and have a real life conversation with you beyond social. I'm also going to program the nurture sequence into the CRM so that that delivers the second that I bring back those new contacts and put them into the system. And that nurture sequence should be around 4 to 6 messages that are specifically designed to add value to the relationship. Also, I discovered yesterday that there is a way cool app on LinkedIn that you can download that actually, if you remember the days of the BlackBerry when they first came out, I don't know, it may be before many people's times, I don't know, but it used to be you'd have a BlackBerry and you could like put your BlackBerry up to someone else's and beam them your card. And that was, I thought, just the coolest thing. Well, LinkedIn is doing the same thing right now. So you can download the app, pull up a QR code, and then what you do is you hold up your QR code to their phone or vice versa, and it scans their contact and immediately sends them the invitation to connect. It is so cool. So you can do that with new people that you connect with so that again, takes one more follow-up step out, but you can add new contacts that way as well, which is very exciting. All right, so, oh my goodness, we've covered so much ground, and I know I'm running out of time because we have covered a lot of ground. So we've talked about all of the things that you can do. Now let's talk about how could you fail at trade show prospecting. So a few of the big mistakes that I see people make: they connect only with people that they know. They don't actively seek out those new contacts or connections. They approach the event with zero strategy. They're just going to go and work the room and meet as many new people as they can and shake as many hands as they possibly can. And then, of course, partake in whatever food or beverages are there and social hour, and they walk away and they're like, oh, you know, it was great to actually connect with people again, but I don't know that I got any business out of it. The other is they don't follow up. Remember, I gave the example of my client that has attended these events, but hasn't really been systematic about their follow-up. I've given you some tips about how to make sure that you do follow up and follow through with all of those relationships. You are going to want to make sure that you take advantage of that. The other hugely missed opportunity is missing out on the social proof, where you can have your clients that you network with that proactively go out of their way to connect you with prospects. And they are delighted to do so. And all we have to do is ask them, help them help us. So ask them, who do you know that's here that I should connect with? And they will do an amazing job of walking you around the room and connecting you. And those are just a few of the things that I think people really miss out on when it relates to trade show. Now, you may have looked at that what follow-up, or you may have that question of what follow-up is it that I should be doing? And I am very glad you asked. Because remember, building that relationship follows the buyer journey. You may have your sales process, but they are going to go through in their minds a path of how they are going to engage with you. In that initial connection at the top of funnel, that's when the awareness is built. Engagement in conversation is when they start to discover and recognize the authority or subject matter expertise that you have. As they move through the funnel, they figure out whether or not they like you and whether or not what you're sharing resonates with them and they respect what you can do for them. You are also going to, at that point, expose them to your community, and they're going to hear about others that look like them, or maybe that they look up to or admire that have engaged with you. As you create value in the relationship, you help them solve problems. You're also going to, again, engage that reciprocity trigger that is so critically important. And then by putting together that limited time, limited access offer, you will engage that scarcity trigger. So this is the process or that map that you want to follow as you go through the buyer journey. Now, I've probably just explained a little bit to you that may be a little bit of Greek or a foreign language. So now what I thought I would do is just wrap it all up and give you a very clear step-by-step. If you want to do this, here's how you start. So we're summing it all up right here in one slide. This is your roadmap. When you come back from your trade show, or even if you're at your trade show, you're going to enter the new contacts into your CRM. You are going to immediately then engage them through the automation process so that that nurture sequence is delivered and that offer is communicated. And I actually did, I think I've got one of these webinars that we've done through Business Unusual that's talking about building your offer. Maybe I'll do another one of those again. I think that was kind of a fun topic. And it's certainly one that is incredibly valuable for folks right now. You are also going to want to make sure that you are connecting across all social channels. You are listening to the conversations that your prospects are having. You are then, once all of this automation happens, what is so important is that you pay daily attention to the analytics in your CRM. Because many of the amazing systems that are out there in CRMs will actually do lead scoring, and they will tell you which of your prospects are the most engaged with your content and with the communications that are going out. Those are the folks that you are going to want to make sure you reach out to and send individual emails or pick up the phone and call them so that you're having conversations. You're going to schedule appointments with those high scoring opportunities, and then you are going to engage them in your sales process so that you build relationships, deliver immense value, and create extraordinary new clients from your trade show experience. Now, if I've given you a lot, and I think I have, I want you to recognize that what I've shared with you today is about 50% of what is here that you can do. I didn't have enough time to get through it all today, and I'm even running a little bit over right now. So I am going to offer, if you have interest in exploring how this can be expanded or built out, or what systems would be most helpful for you to take advantage of trade shows, please reach out to me. I am delighted to help you with this. And then, of course, if you've recognized that networking through referral partners is one of the best avenues for you to take advantage of trade shows, and remember, it can be very powerful, I would love to have you in my productive prospecting community. And I've got the link right here on the slide that I'm delighted to share with you. I've got a new website that's coming soon. So, and I will also make sure that I put this link in the comments below, and would love to have you join us. I want to say thank you so much. I would love to hear from you based on what you have heard about today that really changed how you're thinking about trade shows. So do me a favor, chime in with the comments below. Let me know what you took out of this that you are going to begin implementing with your own prospecting. And then, of course, if you found value in this session, I would love for you to share the recording with others so that they can incorporate some of these strategies to make the most of their trade show experience. And if you haven't already, make sure that you do register for our weekly prospecting tip that is at salesworks.com, and would love to have you be a part of our community ongoing. Thank you so much for your time and for your attention. And remember, to get what you want, you must help others get what they want. Have a wonderful day and good selling.